This non-league footballer has had a career like no other, from winning a football competition to making his professional debut. But it hasn't been without its struggles. Scott Pollock has had to overcome long-term injuries and dropping down divisions to become one of the National League's brightest stars. So what advice would he have for young players coming through now? Scott, it's been 7 years since you won that football competition with hashtag. How would you describe your footballing journey so far?
Overall, a bit of a weird one. Starting at Sunday League and then literally in the space of like a year going to pro football is probably the craziest thing that's happened in my career so far. So it's gone a bit sort of random. And even the football and education that I was at, I was basically doing that and then a couple of months later going straight to professional football, which is just crazy to think. And then dropped down, had a few injuries, and then now just trying to get my career going again.
What have you been eating? Because last time we saw you, you
was,
were a skinny young lad. Now you're this full-grown
that
monster.
was about four years ago. A lot of people are saying that now, but that was about 4 years ago. So I think in that time I've just probably done a lot more gym. Maybe the injuries have kind of given me a chance to use the gym a bit more and then try and bulk up a little bit.
How did the injuries affect you mentally as well? Because you had some tough ones to get over.
Yeah, it was tough because I didn't actually know what it was. It was one of them where I had some pain in my knee, didn't know what was going on, and then finally, like a year later, got it sorted. So it's a bit of a setback, but I always think the setbacks kind of help you out and it shows whether you really want to make it or not. So now I'm just enjoying playing again.
It was a floating bone, wasn't it?
Yeah, floating bone at the top of my kneecap. So I've never heard of that one before, but finally got it out. And then even after that, it took a while to fully get it healed, but now it's all good.
Talk us through why you decided to join Brackley.
As soon as I spoke to the manager, I knew it was the club for me. I think how they're doing stuff here, you can look around, like it's a good pitch, a good setup, some good fans. They're trying to keep everything quite professional as a semi-pro club, so that's what I'm here for, is that kind of professional side of it. As you can turn up at some clubs and it be very semi-professional, which is still good, and a lot of clubs are still at a good level, but for me, I want to make it back up to professionals.
What do you look for when you're recruiting players?
Dependent on position, obviously, you know, experience is a big thing for me. Mobility, ability, yeah, we want good people, and that's a big thing for me as well. You know, good people are going to work in the changing room, and you know, hopefully the football will do the talking for them.
One player that we know very well, Scott Pollock, he's been on absolute fire for you this season. How much did you know about him before bringing him in?
Yeah, quite a lot, as you alluded to previously. You know, I've sort of my background in non-league football, so I knew of Scott. I knew about his time at Northampton, going into Boston. And then obviously to Yeovil, and yeah, myself, him and his agent had long conversations, and yeah, listen, it's a new chapter for him. We feel like we're giving him a platform to go and be the best he can be, and it's going to take a bit of time because he's coming off the back of not playing many games, but you know, he's just starting to get his rhythm now, and yeah, we're really pleased to have him because again, you know, he's an excellent footballer, but he's a brilliant human as well.
What role does he play in your side?
So he can play multiple. You know, he's a midfielder that's, you know, really good at running from deep, striker, back to goal. He's got a bit of everything. You know, he's got a real chance of, you know, establishing himself in this team, which is hard because we've got other good players looking for his position. So yeah, he's an excellent player, but again, he's fantastic in the change room with the lads.
Do you miss that day-to-day of being a professional footballer?
A little bit, yeah. I've always loved football, so like me going in day-to-day, I don't mind that. And I'm always sort of trying to do extras and stuff like that.
And how are you finding playing in the National League North? This season, you're on absolute fire.
Yeah, obviously, was with Boston, National League North. Didn't quite get off to the right start as a team. Individually, I was doing all right, but as a team, we weren't winning enough games. So it's nice to be at a club like Brackley, who always do well in this league.
And you play with one of your mates?
Yeah, Morgan, my best mate. So yeah, when he said get me in here, which is good for me. Obviously, local as well, so it's nice to play with a few mates, and there's a couple of others at Northampton as well when I was there, like Johnny Maxted, Liam Cross, so it's nice to have a little bit of a reunion here.
Does that play a big part in your next decision when you left Yeovil? Because obviously that is a big location move as well.
Yeah, I think
getting closer to home was important for you.
Yeah, I think when you get older, you kind of realise.
Older, you're 23.
I know, I'm not saying that, but you like your routines, you like your schedules, and when you're doing all that travelling, it's hard to get into that routine. And a lot of the travelling, obviously putting miles on your car, paying for accommodation and stuff like that, it can add up. So being a bit more local now, I've got a good balance on and off the pitch.
And you know, playing at this level, if you're scoring goals, assisting, there are plenty of clubs above that are now watching the national leagues to pick out the next talent. So you know that your name is out there.
Yeah, it's happening a lot more now. A lot of people are going for the National League North or National League and then taking them up. As there's some good players at this level and some good standards, so they know that they can grab them for a cheap price and then take them up to like League 2, League 1.
And how would you describe your style of play for Brackley Town?
I like to get on the ball, so either dropping in as a 10 or played it recently as a striker, so getting into them positions to give myself the best chance to score.
Gavin, you've got plenty of non-league experience. What advice would you give to young players coming through at this level?
I think it's important to recognise how far non-league football's come. I think, long gone are the days of the really poor pitches and, dog and duck mentality. I think players, whether they're coming out of the pro game or they're coming through the non-league clubs, I think they have to understand the standards and how hard they're going to have to work. So as any level really, you have to work as hard as you possibly can. You have to all those little 1% and go above and beyond and just give everything that you can.
You've got a lovely surface here. How much does that help with your style of play?
Yeah, as I've said, we've come a long way in non-league football, so a lot of clubs and their resources enable them to have good pitches, and it depends how you want to play, of course. I'm not against any way of playing football. It's about results, I suppose. But yeah, it helps to have a good surface. I think the players enjoy it, and it helps us with the way we play.
David, the gaffer spoke very highly about your pitch. How do you get it looking so pristine?
It's a lot of hard work. We're fortunate that Keith spends sort of most of each day here working on the pitch. We do a lot of remedial work. We do a chemical programme, so each month we're putting on various chemicals for the right time of year. End of each season we do a full renovation.
The sun is shining today, but there's one part of the pitch that's just causing a bit of concern for you.
Yeah, just in this area here on the corner of the 18-yard box, it always tends to back water up. On the slope side of it, everything comes down to this corner. Over towards the touchline, it's fine. It's just this area here. We're a bit lost for a reason why it's doing it, but we're probably going to put more sand on it next year when we do the renovation in this particular area.
We're here today to see Scotty Pollock. How much have you seen of him this season?
I've watched most games, yeah. In a rich vein of form at the moment, I think. Obviously, I think he was getting fit at the start of the season, but he's been in the side now for the last 3 or 4 games, and he's been probably one of the standout players.
Keith, so who's been your star player so far this season?
Scott Pollock, I would say.
What is it about his game that you like?
He gets into everything. He's here, there and everywhere. Good midfield player as well.
You're a kit man as well?
Kit man, groundsman, and look after the players.
What they like to look after?
They're not too bad, actually.
How do you juggle that non-league experience from youth to the experienced player like your captain?
Yeah, well, I suppose they can manage themselves a little bit. I'm very fortunate that I've got some really good experienced heads in there, Gaz Dean, Shane Byrne, Matt Lowe and Danny Newton and probably more.
So you're bored of talking to each other, good information all the time.
So yeah, you have to maybe a bit more of an arm around some of the younger ones, a bit more guidance, but yeah, I'm lucky that I've got, I suppose, what you would call a senior leadership team that are able to help me out, and yeah, we're a good group, and that's what's important to me.
And you,
First contact, second balls, lads, yeah? So important. So important.
What's the biggest lesson you learnt playing non-league?
Consistency. I think one thing, you find a lot of really, really good players at the level. Sometimes you'll watch games and you'll wonder what they're even doing there. And a lot of it comes down to mentality. And I think mentality is a big thing, and consistency within that. Players need to know that they need to turn up week in and week out. You can't just have a couple of good games and a couple of games off. So I would say mentality is a huge thing for me. They improve their mentality, you see them go up the leagues, and that consistency is always important.
The Brackley side is packed with experience, but what has been their biggest lesson playing non-league football?
Oh, what a question that is. It's probably a lot more physical than people give it credit, so yeah, gotta get through that first.
You get whacked on the head a lot as a defender. You can't be nice, you got to be rough and ready.
Oh, if I'm on the spot, biggest lesson, I would say relentlessness.
Oh, it's more ruthless.
The biggest lesson learned in non-league football, the dedication of players.
It's just a game.
Are you surprised how good the level is in the National League North and South, as well as the National League now?
A couple of my mates actually have played at a lot higher level are really surprised when they come here, and I think all that's happened is over the last 15, 20 years is whether we've had foreign players coming in the system, and it's just sort of dwindled down really back to this level, and I think this level now 20 years ago probably would have been League 2 equivalent. So I think I'm not surprised at the standard, because again, as you've said, I've been in and around it, I've seen it develop, I see the players that come in every day, I see how they work, and it doesn't surprise me the level. If anything, it's a bit of a grate when people underestimate the level, because there's some excellent players you'll see today on both teams. There's some really seasoned players, some unbelievable ability, some big experience, and I think people should go down to their local clubs a little bit more, and I think they'll be pleasantly surprised if they're not doing so already.
Nothing in life worth having is given to you. Have that in your mind. These are here to take what's yours. It's only yours if you're willing to work for it. Are you willing to go and grab it? You're gonna have to work hard. Beat him in every first ball, second ball, every duel. Be willing to do it. Let's do it. Come on.
Gaz, as captain of this football club, when a new player comes in, what are the non-negotiables?
Oh mate, I'm the most punctual person in the world, so time, bravery, like commitment, coming on team nights out. It's about it really, mate, but yeah. Being part of the group, like we pretty much sieve out lads that ain't going to be part of the group quite quickly, so I'd say, yeah, being like connected within the group is probably that non-negotiable.
Scotty Morgs, yeah, now I want to start feeling it, yeah? Come on, through this room.
Yeah,
3 points, nothing else.
Energy now, yeah, let's ramp it up.
Got it, let's go. Nice and sharp now.
What kind of captain are you? You're very vocal.
Probably like quite nasty from the sideline, but I'm also very like nurturing and loving, like boys that have got things going on the outside. I try and always help them and nurture them and stuff like that, but quite loud, shouty, growly, but yeah, that's kind of my thing. I'm very loving, which doesn't come out much, but yeah, I'd say I'm quite loving as well.
Don't get bored of talking to each other, good information all the time.
You've made over 750 appearances in your footballing career, which in itself is incredible. What's the biggest lesson you've learned throughout your time?
Oh, good question. Probably about myself. I know I'm tough, and I don't mean tough as in like growling and stuff like that. I just mean tough in terms of dealing with like setbacks, like injuries, setbacks, like playoff losses, stuff like that really, and keep coming back. Yeah, I don't know, I've always obviously been in non-league, so for me, you know, the culture of non-league, really buying into like football clubs and stuff like that, so I've learnt a lot about sort of local communities. You know, they're all very different in their own sort of unique way. Obviously I started at Nuneaton like homegrown boy, so that was sort of a proud moment to me, and then went to Solihull for a year, and then when I came here really it's a different culture, it's a different feel, probably not so many fans, but they are a real amazing group of fans, so yeah, I've learned a lot about myself but a lot about other people as well.
So what does the club captain think about the ability of Scott Pollock?
Do you expect him, in the nicest possible way, not to be here that long because he's that good and could go up, but obviously he's a great player you want in your team at the minute?
Yeah, I hope so. Like that's pretty much the philosophy of the club really. We don't really stand in lads, youngsters' way if it's a sort of stepping stone for them to go higher. But I envisage his future will be higher than non-league football. I mean, he's a powerful runner, he's sort of very versatile, can do a little bit of everything through the middle of the pitch, from midfield up across that sort of like attacking line, and then we call him killer because when he's in front of goal he's really ruthless. In training, like once isn't enough for him, it's like 6, 7, 8 and he faces you up and he comes back again and again and again, so yeah, real powerful runner and a real strong finisher.
You must have seen some quality players come through as youngsters in this division. The level of the National League and National League North and South, it's just risen a lot over the last few years, isn't it?
I think the pyramid has just in general really, like you go into the National League and the standard of that now, it's tough when teams get out of this level to go and survive because they're fit, they're athletic, and you know, they're all well drilled, well coached, and it's real tough for sort of part-time to get to that level now. But yeah, even this standard now, there's a lot of full-time teams in it. Yeah, which is something we're proud of because like we do sort of put ourselves there or thereabouts every single year really typically, and it isn't easy. I think people just naturally assume that you'll be there, but a lot of hard work goes into it. But yeah, the standard is definitely creeping up, and I just think that's more like the professionalism. Like you look at all the bits that go on now, everyone's doing analysis, GPS, you know, like weigh-ins, calipers, all the sort of fun stuff.
You're in good shape, mate. You're all right with that one.
Yeah, but when I first started out at this level, really, it was like the whole group were coming off their lads' holiday in pre-season, being sick at a tree about 3.5 miles away, and then you'd have to run back to the same tree when you got back. There wasn't much science behind it, whereas now there's a lot of science, a lot of work that goes off the club, and yeah, I mean, you've got to look around you, like the club's growing on and off the pitch, which is important. There's a lot of other clubs doing that as well, which makes non-league an exciting place to be.
What would be your advice to any youngsters coming through playing at this level?
Play games, like don't be scared to, you know, if you have to drop down to step 3 or 4, whatever, to actually get minutes. There's no point sitting on the bench. I was fortunate enough to, you know, be thrust into a team at the age of 17, 18, like end of September, October time, and I think my first season I played nearly 40 games, and then thereafter was pretty much 50 every year. So got a lot of, I think by the time I left Nuneaton when I was about 24, and I played 335 games. So, wow. And they're all starts, 90 minutes, so you get a lot of, you know, lessons. So I'd say the biggest lesson for me would be playing games. Like people that sit on benches just to say they play step 1, step 2, it's pointless, you won't progress, and that would probably be my biggest advice.
Scotty, what's the biggest lesson you've learned playing non-league football?
I'd say you've probably got to like adapt to different teams. Some games you just be sort of sitting in against better opposition, and then some games, even similar like today, you've just got to dig in there and then take your chances when they come. But a lot of the time it's just a lot of a mental game really, because anyone beats anyone. So it's just if your mentality is right, then you you can get the 3 points.
What's the biggest bit of advice you would give someone who's in a similar position to you?
I think once you get on a good run, that's when you get your confidence. And a lot of it at this level is just confidence. You've got a lot of equal teams, similar abilities and stuff, so it's just, if you can get that run together, staying confident, then you go far.